Welcome to section 1.3. This is the fourth session of the CISSP exam prep series. In this session, we'll map the invisible lines that shape your defenses. We'll answer several questions. What exactly is a security boundary? What different forms do these boundaries take? Why must every boundary be clearly defined? And how do you decide what protection each one deserves? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because you cannot guard a line you have not drawn. Picture a design firm sharing one open floor with a payment processing team. Same building, but wildly different sensitivity of data. If nobody marks where the strict zone begins, people wander across it without a second thought. Spot the boundaries first, and you know precisely where to place your controls. What exactly is a security boundary? It is the line where two areas with different security needs meet. On one side sits something more sensitive, on the other something less. A classic example is the seam between your internal network and the public internet. The instant you recognize that line, you gain a job to do, controlling how information crosses it. Think of a shoreline where calm harbor water meets open sea. The two are clearly not the same, and the harbor wall marks where one ends. What different forms do these boundaries take? They show up in several shapes. One form is between data classifications, where each level defines who may act on which objects, so the gap between levels is itself a boundary. Another form sits between the physical world and the logical world. Guarding a locked server room is a different job from guarding the accounts running on those servers. Both must exist and both belong in your policy, but you assess each on its own terms. Think of a bank needing both a vault door and a login screen. Neither one replaces the other. Why must every boundary be clearly defined? Because a fuzzy line cannot be enforced. Your policy should state exactly where your control begins and ends, in both the physical and logical worlds. In the logical world, that is where your systems meet outside traffic your organization is legally responsible for. That edge is usually marked plainly, warning outsiders that they have no access and that trying anyway invites prosecution. In the physical world, warning signs post the same message at the fence or the door. Think of a clearly painted line on a factory floor. Everyone can see exactly where the restricted zone starts. How do you decide what protection each boundary deserves? You weigh the controls against the value of what sits behind them. Handle each environment and each boundary separately. Then pick the most reasonable and cost-effective mechanism for that specific spot. The guiding rule never changes. A countermeasure should not cost more than the asset it protects. Spending heavily to guard something cheap is simply waste. Think of fitting a modest lock on a supply closet, but a serious vault on the room full of customer records. Match the strength of the barrier to the worth of what is inside. So let's bring it together. A security boundary is the line between areas with different security needs. Those boundaries appear between classifications and between the physical and logical worlds, and each must be assessed on its own. Every boundary has to be defined clearly in policy in both realms so it can actually be enforced. And the protection you place on each one should match the value of what it guards, never costing more than the asset itself. Draw your lines well, and every control you add later has a clear home. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on RooCloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.